Welcome back. So we head over to the next leg of our conversation, which would be politics, the PDP to be precise, and with the chaos and confusion that played out yesterday as opposing groups of the party battled for the soul and structure of the party. One wonders if, the ship of the opposition party is not just sinking, but has now drowned. And can it still be rescued if it has only just begun to drown? Very important questions, amid the complexity of the factors fueling the leadership crisis in the People's Democratic Party is concerned. Now, joining us on the program to look at that this morning is Professor Anthony Kila. Professor Anthony Kila is the Director, Center for International Advanced and Professorial Studies, and he's also a professor of strategy and development. He joins us virtually this morning. Professor Kila, thank you for joining us on the program, and it's good to see you again.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Before we begin with politics, it's very important to also get your insights and your thoughts on the challenge of national security, particularly with the many troubling stories coming through in the last 48 hours. The capture and killing of Brigadier General Uba. We're seeing very unsettling videos from Kwara State about an attack by bandits in a church. And, of course, that very worrying kidnap of 25 girls from a secondary school in Kebbi State. What are your thoughts and concerns from some of the details that are beginning to come through, particularly from the killing of the Brigadier General and the kidnapping in Kebbi State?
Well, I think the first thing is that, to say, is a very sad development, and one must remember that whilst we talk about figure and use an expression like terrorism, we should think of families who have been deprived of their loved ones. We should think of blood flowing, flesh that have been caught. If we think about it that way, we will see the gravity of what is going on. Before we even think of the national effect, the human effect is a very sad effect. It's barbaric, it's gruesome, it's sad, it's heartbreaking on a very personal level. On a, sort of national conceptual level, it is clear that these terrorists, for them to be doing this now, given what the country is going through, where we're dealing with international allegations and we're dealing with elucidating the meaning of genocide or not genocide, for them to do this, it means that they are not relenting and they are at war with the country. I believe the best thing to do right now is to, if it has been said, to reinstate that the Nigerian country is at war against terrorists and bandits. And starting from this moment, we shall deploy all our forces against them. The forces to deploy will include military brutal war forces. The forces to deploy will include intelligence. What we need to show the world, particularly the bandits and the terrorists right now, is that this country is stronger than them and they will feel our force. I understand those who talk about socio-economical battle of hearts and mind. That needs to be done as well. But I'm a believer in fighting against those who want to kill you by killing them as much as possible. I'm a big believer in raining bombs and bullets and boots on ground against terrorists, whilst we deal with the social economic issues as well. The state needs to be present. The essence of a state is the possession of legitimate and superior force. Monopoly to legitimate and superior force. If the state cannot deploy superior force, then the state is failing.
Very instructive and is reminiscent of thoughts from the book of former Chief of Defense Staff, General Irabo, who spoke recently. But let's continue with politics now. There'll always be ample time also to reflect on national issues subsequently. I'm sure you have not stopped, taking a second look and second thoughts on the drama, high drama that played out at the headquarters of the PDP yesterday. And there are two significant questions that arise. What does this mean, for democracy, our values, the values of our democracy. And what does this development mean for the opposition, valuable opposition and strong opposition to put the ruling party to account?
Well, I think on this issue, which again is another sad, embarrassing issue, there are three things to be said. Number one, let's be very clear about one thing. The reason why we're discussing this thing this morning is not because we're part of the PDP or we're against the PDP. It is because as citizens, as observers, as lovers of institution and democracy, we agree that there needs to be a strong, viable, vibrant opposition. And I think even those in government, if they're worthy of their name as statesmen, will understand that there needs to be a viable, vibrant opposition, because that is what gives governments legitimacy. So when the oppositions appears in chaos like this, it is a bonus, it is a blow to the democratic architecture of the country. It is a blow to our institutions. That is, a framework. Inside the framework, we then need to realize that what we see, what you're showing on TV, what we've seen yesterday, is a signal that it is not well with our political class, as it were. Political parties should be a gathering of like minds who are bounded by a shared high purpose. If they are like minds, they won't be willing to deploy thugs against each other and be pushing each other, because they'll be friends. What binds them will be bigger than what divides them. And if once they come together, they are guided by higher purpose, service to the state, vision to improve their society, there will be less need for this kind of thing. That is in terms of vision. But also show in terms of personality. Unfortunately, they confirm what I've always suspected a long time ago, that too many of the people ruling us, aspiring to ruling us, are not worthy of being called statesman or leader. They resort to thuggery, to violence, because they cannot debate, they cannot consult. In a way, what happened in PDP headquarters yesterday happened because there was no Yerima.
What a way to land your thought. That was a big song. Prof, I was just seeing some videos now where two governors, Bala Mohammed, Sheyi Makinde, literally had to block the entrance. I understand there was an SUV heading into the Secretariat. I also understand that SUV had Nyesom Wike inside, but we didn't see him physically come down. At least I didn't see videos of him. But I understand that SUV was... So they stayed there and said, this is not going to happen. Now, if you were to advise, I know you advise, a range of people. If you were to advise the PDP right now, because right now, like, everybody needs to now come together and advise the opposition parties on how to put their own house in order so that this democracy can thrive and survive. As we speak, the APC has, I think, literal majority in the Senate, and as closing on that, I think, in the House of Reps. Now, that has its own pros and cons as well, depending on what is being presented to them. They have a perception of being rubber stamped. So that in itself, perception-wise, the National Assembly is not looking good before the populace. And they've constantly pushed back on that narrative. But it looks like everything that's sent to them is scaled through. I remember Adams Oshomole, the senator, current senator, had to stand up the other day and say, look, in other words, we're not rubber stamp. We need time to be able to look at these issues. So where I'm going to with this is to the effect that, what do you advise the PDP to do now? Because clearly, the picture is clear. There are people at least openly trying to protect and preserve the PDP. There are people that are clearly, openly trying to make sure the PDP works for the APC. It's as clear as crystal. There's no point hiding anything anymore because their positions are clear, at least from what they've said and their utterances.
Well, I think you're very right, and you're spot on in your analysis. I think what the PDP is going through is inevitable because for a long time there have been people inside working for the outside, and There are people who do not share interests. Let's call name and surname. The likes of Wike, they have their candidate already, who they're going to support in 27. The other people don't have the candidate yet. So you see, they're not in the same situation, really. Their positions are different. I think to get to the point where there has to be a clear fracture rather than factions is inevitable. The difference is how to get there. You expose me to the world that I consult for individuals and organizations. Yes, I do. In this kind of circumstances, the advice for them, which you allow me to give publicly and freely, the advice for them is to come together, those who want to save the party, to realize that they are in a strong battle for the soul and body of their party. They have to go back to go and rethink the way the founding fathers of not just the PDP, but the democracy of Nigeria got themselves together to fight against the military, to say we need to save this party. Sheyi Makinde, who I'm not a big fan of, spoke well yesterday when he said that the issue at stake is that we believe Nigeria should not be a monolithic structure, should not be a one-party state. So therefore, we want to preserve an opposition. So they need to think that way, to think that normally political parties fight opposition. They fight the other side. This time around, they have people inside they have to contend with that well. So they need to devise strategy along that line. It will help if they avoid this kind of scenes of violence. Because in reality, it is not a sign of weakness to stay away from that secretariat, not to show themselves as rowdy this way. They should hold on to the seal, they should hold on to the substantial power and move on with it. And I believe it is legitimate to expel anybody who's working against you. And those people can contend, they can appeal. They can come out to say, no, do not expel us. We're a bona fide member. We believe that the PDP should be the party that will produce the next president of the country. Let's work together along that line. I think, as a democratic institution, as a voluntary partisan all-comers institution, because that's the problem with political parties. There's no benchmark. You don't have to have a certain level of degree or certain understanding or pass any test to join. Anybody can join them. And the people leading political party needs to, bear that in mind. If it was an academic institution or a boardroom, one would know what to do with people who are not fit to be there. But because it's a community thing, it's an all-comers thing, the rules of engagement are different, and it's a burden of leadership for those who want to save the party. And, mind you, those who want to destroy it, it is just that what they're doing is not clear. It is legitimate to want to destroy it as well. That's the joy of partisan politics, or maybe the sadness of it. It's just that the way they're going about it, one can contend that. But, if they have a candidate and they believe their party should support that candidate, it is also legitimate for people like Wike to say, I want to support the APC candidate and I want my party to support it. The only difference is that they should sit down and have a conversation, not will talks and throwing policemen to fight each other. That is bad. That is a way to destroy the party. And those who want to save the party should ensure that the party is not destroyed.
And Prof, you just re-echoed the epiphany arrived at by our newspaper guests this morning, but you said it differently. There are those who want to save the party and there are those who want to destroy the party. And that makes me draw some details that we should be listening to coming through from members of the party in the different opposing groups. Yesterday, we heard Senator Samuel Ayanwu say that he invited the security agents. And if you watched our report yesterday, you would see that indeed there were men of the police force, there was the DSS. He said he wrote about this Board of Trustees meeting, and he, apart from the security agencies, he also wrote to INEC, and INEC acknowledged. Also yesterday, we heard the National Publicity Secretary of the Makinde Group, who spoke on our sister political program, say that this is a case of the minority in the party who want to have their way against the majority, which is curious and what we should be calling a normal happening in a democracy. So if INEC is acknowledging a meeting, of this Senator Samuel Ayanwu group, and in the Ibadan convention that we saw last Saturday, INEC did not participate, are we seeing, the state, the paraphernalia of state deployed in support of the Wike-led group of the PDP? And should this stand in the eyes of the law?
Well, no, it shouldn't start. It's a shame that we're even there at all. It must be said that everybody is trying to use what they can. I mean, the other party also brought their own policemen. This one brought INEC and they brought the state police. It's a shame. You see, these are symptoms. These are consequences of what has gone bad already. This is the smell of a rotten fish. Not the problem is not the smell itself. It's the fish that is rotting. That's the problem we have here. The truth of the matter is that if this party were a normal party, a stable party, a sane party, they won't need to be talking. They shouldn't need. No political party in Nigeria should be need to be talking about police and INEC. It should be a gentleman and ladies agreement where like minds just go through, discuss, debate, and come out with a united front, even where there is a minority report, knowing that, well, this was my stance and this is the majority report. I belong to a lot of associations and I'm known for having minority reports all the time. But, you have your minority report and majority carries the day. That is the way to move on. In this case, it's a sad scenario. And I really, really want to say this to everybody involved in this PDP thing. I want to look at the camera and say, my name is Anthony Kila, and shame on all of you. Shame on all the PDP leaders, shame on all these politicians who are embarrassing themselves, embarrassing their children, disgracing the political structure of Nigeria with this kind of behavior. There is no reason why people who want to rule Nigeria should be pushing and shuffling and using policemen to push each other and calling INEC like little children in classrooms saying, I told the teacher, you called the senior. This is a total disgrace. They need to go back and rethink themselves as incapable of being leaders in waiting of a big country like Nigeria.
Very, very, very strong word. It's literally a show of shame, as you said. And it looks like it's a long haul at the end of the day. And now the situation is so painful that if they are not careful, which is what I want you to speak to, the lack of, on one hand, is the lack of respect for court judgment and orders. That's on one hand. The judiciary themselves, that we will discuss that matter, because sometimes when we look at some judgment that come from the judiciary, we are questioning even the competence of some of these judges. We have a lot of fantastic judges, but some are just destroying the entire system. The Supreme Court has been very clear. At least I know two judgments that I have read, the CTC, one of which is the Labour Party judgment, where the judge, just an advisory, because it's not an enforceable order of court, because the court has said, look, we don't bring anything here. The court is very clear. Justice Iheme, Choma Iheme, I think that's her name, her Lord herself. Yes, during the Rivers case, although it was a controversial case as to why she was ruling on something that was not presented to her, but in a 10-page contributory judgment, they were very clear. Even I think Justice Agbem as well was very clear that anything that has to do with membership, those were the words, membership and leadership of a political party, is not justiciable. Don't bring it here. But we now see, and then you go to the issue of the Labour Party, the same thing. The judge did not give an enforceable order of court, just simply advised that put your acts together if your tenure has ended.
But you see, one thing is to be said.
Sorry, Prof. Where I'm going to is, I think they call it stare decisis. The Supreme Court has ruled on membership and leadership, but we see lower courts consistently assuming jurisdiction. What do you make of it?
Well, that's why I was going to go. That's going to go. I was going to go to the Supreme Court standing. You see, there is some judges and judgments that are enforceable and are high profile. There are some that are not enforceable. That makes more sense. The decision, the judgment that says membership issues should be left as membership level is a very rational, commonsensical position to be taken. I want our bench and our bar to take note that partisan politics in Nigeria is very corrupt and very debasing, very destructive, very toxic. And they should do well to stay away from it as much as possible. The continuous involvement of the judiciary in matters of political party is eroding the trust that observers and average citizens have in the judiciary. And they should be very careful not to be pushed down with it. Because Partisan politics, partisan affairs, by nature, cannot be objective. Those people do not seek truth. They do not seek justice. They do not seek fairness. They seek power. They seek to possess. They seek to dominate. As a result, all their actions cannot, regardless of what they come to tell you, all their actions are partisan. It is for a part. It is never for the whole. So I advise the judiciary to stay away from it as much as possible. And I don't know who can do it. Maybe the judiciary themselves. They need to speak to themselves to ensure consistency in their judgment and to insist that their judgment are respected. But before they can ask for their judgment to be respected, they need the moral authority to ensure that judgments are consistent. Where there is no consistency, where people know that they can shop around for judgment, then they are going to do it, and that is to the detriment of justice.
Strong words there for the PDP, not just for the opposition party alone, but also for all political parties in Nigeria. And we hope that, there will be a solution, however evasive it would be, to this leadership crisis currently plaguing the People's Democratic Party. We must thank you very much for coming on the program. We've been talking with Professor Anthony Kila on this particular one. Professor Kila is the Director, Center for International Advanced and Professorial Studies and Professor of Strategy and Development. Thank you for coming on the Morning Brief.
Thank you for having me.
And there's more to reflect on: local government administration. And of course, the Nigerian candidate that is positioning to take up the role of UN Secretary General. Will it be possible? We'll have more for you after this time out. Join us again.